Hi everyone, this is Professor Daniel MacDonald. These are video lectures for Economics 3500 Tools of Economic Analysis. In these short videos, I'll be demonstrating the tools that we'll be learning during the class. All of the data sets that I'm referring to here are available for you to download through the Blackboard course. So you just click on the associated file. I'll try to mention which file I'm working on to give you a reference point. But in this first tutorial, I just wanted to show you around Excel, show you a few different formulas that you can use to get going and to start using the software, since we will be using it extensively during this class. So the first thing I want to show you is how to calculate simple mean and medians. If you wanted to calculate the mean of this data set here, which is just a random sample of wages, this is just completely hypothetical data, then what you would do is just go over to a blank cell. You start by typing the equal sign, and then you calculate, and then you type average. And then there's two approaches here. You can enter the cell ranges manually to get the average, or another approach, which is a little more common, a little easier to use, is to drag and drop. And that will give you the same answer, of course. If you wanted to calculate the median, you would just type median and do the same thing. And since we're in this file, this class 1 file, might as well show you how to do the other ones, the other formulas that we talked about on the lecture slides. So you have your standard deviation formula, STDEV.S. Notice that the S is important here. If you choose P, that actually refers to the population standard deviation and uses a slightly different statistical formula. So make sure that you always use .S, because we're always dealing with sample data in our class. And then just to show you kind of how these formulas work, you can also calculate the variance of the sample variance of your data. And then what you can do is take the square root of that, and you should get the same number as the standard deviation. And to show that, you can see we're also using a different formula here. So SQRT gives you the square root of any number. And one approach you can use is just to literally type in the number, square root of 8.687857. But a faster way, and by the way, you can see here those two cells match up, so the variance, the square root of the variance does equal the standard deviation. But another approach is to refer to the cell location. So instead of typing in the actual number, you can refer to a cell location. And this is a very nice trick to use in Excel when you might be applying a formula to different data, or you might, let's say you have this set up here, and then you want to say, oh, I made a mistake. The wage of the observation number 4, person number 4, is actually not 16. It's actually, let's say, 15.5, and then when you do that, as you can see, this automatically updates for you because you've already calculated the variance of this cell range, right? You've already calculated the variance of the cell range, and so and since you've already, and then you're just referring to the cell location there instead of the actual number. So this is not going to change, obviously, because you just entered in the number, but this does change, right? So that's just a nice little trick, is to always refer to the cell location, if possible anyway. Okay, another thing about the Class 1 lecture slides is toward the end of the Class 1 lecture slides, you have a short little demonstration where you calculate the coefficient of variation. And to do that, what you do is you first have to calculate the average of your variable. And then you have to calculate the standard deviation. Remember to use the STDEV.S formula. And then to calculate the coefficient of variation, what you would do is you would take the standard deviation and you divide it by the mean. Some students do the opposite, or some students convert this to a percentage or something. It's not necessary. You can just report it as this decimal here. That's the way that it's commonly done. Now, you might also want to do this for another set of data. And if the second set of data that you're using has the same number of observations and it lies directly to the right, or as long as it's of the same size, like we have here, they're right next to each other, it's the same number of observations, and so on. Another trick is, instead of typing the formulas again, there's actually something that can save you a little bit of time, and it's a nice little trick when you're working with Excel, is to just copy the formula and then paste it. So you can do that either by right-clicking and copying, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control-C. I believe on the Mac it's Command-C. And then it'll just apply the formula to this row of data. You can check that that's correct by manually calculating the average of this data. And you can see you get the same answer. Okay. You can do the same thing for standard deviation. So Control-C, Control-V, and then even for the coefficient of variation. And you can actually see up here in the formula bar that that's what your formula is calculating, C24 divided by C23. So that's a quick little tour around Excel using formulas in Excel. Now, another thing that you might encounter in the first week of class is to learn how to construct simple line graphs, and that can be done in Excel. There are different ways of doing it. I'm going to show you a way that might seem a little more roundabout depending on how much experience you have in Excel, but I find that it's a nice way to kind of learn under the hood what's going on, how you make data sets, and how you construct line graphs out of them in Excel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight B2 to B22. I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to not use the recommended charts. I'm going to find the line graph over here. It's this option over here to the left in the middle, and then just click the first line there. Now what you're going to notice, looks like I've got a nice line graph. It'd be nice if I had a title here and maybe some axis titles. But the biggest problem is this x-axis, the labels here. What I want to do is I want to make sure that this is correct, right? So I don't want just random numbers, I want years. So what I need to do is I need to go to select data. So you just click on the chart, right click on the chart, find select data, and then we want to edit these horizontal category axis labels. I'm going to edit this, and then I'm going to highlight the range of the data for the years. And then you click OK again, and now you have a nice x-axis that labels the time, right? And as I was saying, you might want to add some axis titles here. So this is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, so you might say DJIA points or index or whatever, index, and then here you might put the quarter, label this as the quarter year or something like that. I mean, these kinds of things are up to you. It's it's a question of how detailed you want to get, but of course, the more informative, the better. Because when you're making charts, you should always think of it as how would someone be able to read this chart if they had no idea, why you were making the chart in the first place, right? So you put a chart in a report, but you want someone to be able to just, say, flip through the report and say, oh, okay, this is a chart, and this is telling me the Dow Jones Industrial Average between Q3 of 2013 and Q3 of 2018. You might even spell out here, Dow Jones Industrial Average, just to make it very clear. Okay, well, that's it for this week. Try to work through all of these yourself. Try to construct a line graph for crude oil, for example. Go back and work through the practice problems. The only way that you're going to learn Excel is by practicing this and getting familiar with the tools and working your way around the program. So, nerd out a little bit and try these out for yourself. And that's the best way to learn these things. So good luck. And of course, you can always email me if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to set something up where we can go through something together if you're still having difficulty. Okay, well, thank you.